In this special edition of the WWE podcast, we are going to take a look at the best and worst of the ThunderDome era that ran from March 2020 until July of 2021. This is going to be a lot of fun, so let's get everything going right now.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis.
Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
All right, everybody, welcome to the WWE podcast. Yes, it is Monday, July 12th, 2021. You must be asking yourself, what the hell is he recording on a Monday for? Well, in the honor and spirit of the ThunderDome era coming to an end, mercifully, wonderfully, we are going to do a bit of a tribute show to discuss the ThunderDome era. And I want to preface it by saying that this is not going to be just about the ThunderDome era. I would like to go back to really March of 2020 because the ThunderDome wasn't implemented for several months into the pandemic. So when I say ThunderDome, I'm going all the way back to the beginning of the pandemic of, I believe, the very first Raw of, it was March 16th, 2020 is when the very first Raw happened. That was in front of nobody. So we're going to get into all of the good, all of the bad. And there is, yes, quite a bit of that bad. But I think that the ThunderDome era makes us appreciate just what a crowd, a live audience can bring to the table for whatever event that you are watching. It has become one of those invisible heroes that you just you don't really pay attention to until they're not there. And then they're gone, and you realize that it was the most important thing, especially in professional wrestling. So we're going to get into the good and the bad, the ugly, the really ugly, and the single worst match I've ever seen in my nearly 25 years of watching wrestling. And I think that if you have followed this show for any length of time, you probably know which match I'm talking about. But for those that are new, I'll kind of keep you on the hook. And yes, we're going to go back, revisit it, listen to some audio, and I'm going to just shake my head, keep my four-letter words to myself, and try to analyze it in a professional way. So, yeah, good luck to that. So we're going to get into all of course, the garbage, the stuff that's really bad, because, hell, we're wrestling fans, love negativity, don't we? But there was some good coming of it, not just a newly found appreciation for audiences, a newfound appreciation for what makes wrestling really good, and that is emotion. As human beings, we are emotional by nature, and when you take that out of what makes wrestling, it becomes really difficult to watch. So, what I want to do first is bring you back to that very first episode of SmackDown, the very first show that was in the Performance Center, March 13th, 2020. This will bring back some nightmares for a lot of you, but it is a reminder of just how far we've come, honestly. And so take a listen. I'm sure this will jog a lot of your memories.
Welcome to Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. I'm the Game Triple H, and I would like to personally welcome you to the WWE Performance Center. This 30,000 square foot amazing state-of-the-art facility with its 7 rings and its world-class strength and conditioning and medical is designed to bring you the WWE superstars of the future. This is the athletic hub of the WWE. On any given day, there are 100 athletes from all over the world training here, putting their heart and soul into everything they do, with the ultimate goal being the privilege of performing for you. Everybody from Sasha Banks, Bayley, Asuka, Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, Baron Corbin, they have all walked through these doors. And tonight, they will return to the Performance Center, not to train, but to do what they have been trained to do better than anyone else on this planet, and that is entertain you. Now, this show will be different from anything you have ever seen before. So sit back, relax, and if you can, forget about the world around you and let WWE do what we do. Let us put a smile on your face. Welcome to Friday Night SmackDown on Fox.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever, WWE superstars will entertain you tonight in front of an empty arena. It's Friday Night SmackDown on Fox, presented by Progressive, your first-round choice for auto insurance.
Well, if you don't remember that, I just conjured up some bad memories for you. And, I got to applaud WWE for being the only sporting event, the only one during this time that was out there, that was available. It was it. This was it. There was nothing else. Nothing else. We're going to look back on these times and say, oh my God, remember that? And even watching it now, it makes me thankful for the ThunderDome, because we're looking at an empty arena. We're looking at chairs that are empty. No one's there. And this made it real to me. Now, of course, the news and the World Health Organization declaring that COVID was a pandemic. Obviously, there's a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of how long is this going to last? And a lot of, hey, there's no vaccine, all of that. And when WWE gets shut down, or as far as when WWE is unable to put their show on with fans, that's how you know it's real. The only other time I can think about it when it happened was the snowed-in Raw after the Rumble in, 2014, after Roman Reigns got booed out of the building and winning the Royal Rumble with The Rock there. That was the only other time. That was the only other time I can remember. But this was ongoing. I mean, this went on for several months before the ThunderDome came along. But I wanted to give you that intro to remind you of how far we've come. And did I like Triple H's just complete exposure of the business in that intro? No, I didn't. I mean, there's a ton of other stuff you could have said, other than we're here to entertain you. We're here to put on a performance. We're here to put a smile on your face. I mean, there's really nothing worse you can say other than that. They're really, I mean, that is the epitome of cringeworthy language and buzzwords that WWE uses constantly. I can't stand it. It's just the absolute worst. But that aside, absolutely appreciative of them being able to put together a show on a weekly basis with no fans there, dead silence, during a time that was building up to WrestleMania. They were a month away from WrestleMania. It was difficult. There's really no worse time for this to happen. So that was the night that John Cena was returning too. John Cena was returning. Roman Reigns had an interview. I'm looking through some of the stuff. We had Sasha Banks and Bayley still together. So let's listen to some of the commentary with Michael Cole and Triple H. I mean, some of it is pretty good.
He has held the title for nearly 300 days, and of course here tonight with her best friend Sasha Banks. Hello again, everybody. As you can imagine, we are working with a very small crew here tonight. I'm going to be joined by a bunch of guest stars, including my first guest. He is Triple H, the man that is responsible for the Performance Center for NXT. Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure to be here. I mean, this is an amazing opportunity to come here to show the world what WWE does in a completely different way, but for the first time in the Performance Center, where all these athletes...
Quiet down. That means turn the music off. Wow. Okay. The role model and the legit boss have arrived, and we decided to kick off the show because, I mean, we are the best and we are the face.
Okay. They pretty much ran the division, if you remember, right? Bayley and Sasha. That's one of my high points, I will say. To me, a high point is Sasha and Bayley, who ran that division really through the summer. they were awesome. They were the glue of SmackDown because remember, Roman Reigns was not yet a heel. Doesn't it feel like he's been a heel forever now? Roman Reigns was not a heel at this time. He was still scheduled to be in a match with Goldberg until he pulled out, and he ended up being away from WWE for about 5 months or so, and then eventually came back at SummerSlam, and the slogan of "You'll never see it coming" was perfectly placed, and we all know the rest is history. But yeah, Roman Reigns was still a babyface at this time. Insane, right? Absolutely insane. I believe this is the last time that we would see Roman Reigns on SmackDown before he did pull out, and Braun Strowman took his place. So I want us to give you a lay of the land right at the very beginning here, because it is important. I think it is important to remember exactly where the hell things were during this time. And man, seeing Roman Reigns as a babyface is just, it feels wrong now. Just feels so wrong. But I did want to touch on some moments that are big, the big moments. Now, what I want to talk about now is specifically Money in the Bank of last year. Since Money in the Bank is this Sunday, I think it's appropriate that we talk a little bit about last year's Money in the Bank. And yes, I will get to the Money in the Bank ladder match itself in just a moment. But I think what we need to discuss is, and I'll go back to WrestleMania, no doubt. Okay, I just want to touch on Money in the Bank right now. But what we talked about or saw at Money in the Bank was a big moment. Really, the Monday Night Raw after Money in the Bank is really the big moment here. So if you don't remember, let's take a listen to that.
I walked in through these very doors in 2013, and I didn't know anybody in this country, and I didn't know if I was good enough to be here. And I didn't know if anybody would care about a loudmouth Irish woman who loved puns and toast. But somewhere along the line, I learned that they did care, and they cared so much that they put me on their shoulders and they carried me into history, and I will never forget that. Through injury and triumph, it was the fans who stood up for me, who had my back. And it was the fans who I grabbed onto when I didn't have anybody else. And that is why it is the fans, it is you at home that deserve to hear this from me first. That I have to go away for a while.
All right, take a little pause there, but because she had to compose herself. Very emotional. I don't remember feeling this emotional watching it. This was all real stuff with Becky Lynch. Announcing her pregnancy. Okay, that's obviously what we know is going to happen here. And first of all, it's great to see Becky Lynch. Like, I haven't watched too much of Becky Lynch since she left on, like, even on the network or Peacock or wherever. I haven't watched much of her. So it's really, really cool to see her. And I'm sure that it won't be long before, well, that we see her again. I think it's sooner rather than later from everything that I hear. So let's continue on here with this emotional run. Asuka comes out.
You have beaten me when nobody else could. You have been the best wrestler in the world for a long time, and this is why I am so glad that this is happening to you. Because the match last night, it wasn't what you thought it was. It wasn't for an opportunity to win the championship. It was for so much more. And I know you haven't been able to unlock this, because there's a combination.
Asuka's a heel right now. Remember that.
The match last night was actually for the Raw Women's Championship. No, I can't fight anymore, but you can. You are the champion.
I'm the champion?
You are the champion.
I'm the champion!
You are the champion.
Yeah! Yeah, I'm the champion!
Oh my God.
Oh, yes! Champion, champion! Get out of here! Get out of here! Get out of here! I'm the champion! Yes!
Okay, no sound here. No fan noise is really, really awkward. Really, really awkward having Asuka do this.
I'm the champion! You are the champion now, and as happy as you are to be the champion, I might be a little bit happier. So you go and be a warrior, because I'm gonna go be a mother. Congratulations! Yeah! Yeah! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! I'm so happy for you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you!
All right, we're gonna kind of stop there. Man, I'm like getting all like emotional off this. I don't remember feeling this way. I think probably because at that point, myself, including a lot of fans, probably felt that they were a little bit over Becky Lynch being champion. The loss that Shayna Baszler suffered at WrestleMania against Becky Lynch certainly didn't help things. So, yeah, I mean, watching that back is pretty powerful. I gotta say, when reality meets fantasy, that's where a lot of the magic happens. So, all right, well, let's transition a little bit into something a little more serious. Something as I go back, as I look at this, I'm becoming a little bit softer to it. I'm becoming a little more accepting of it. And that is the Boneyard match with The Undertaker versus AJ Styles in what would be Undertaker's final match. WWE did a lot of cinematic matches and presentations and segments during the COVID era, pandemic era, ThunderDome era. Whatever you use, those to me are interchangeable. They did a lot of it, and they enjoyed being able to, I think, flex their creative muscle when it comes to movie making, when it comes to what I think some of the management would like wrestling to really be. And that is a cinematic presentation where they have full control. So I think, along with pumping in crowd noise, they got to also play God with the cinematics, going full bore on a lot of these matches. And at first, with this match, Undertaker versus AJ Styles, I was a little bit set back. I was negative. I remember in my review that I had of it, and it is a little bit sad that the Undertaker, like arguably one of the best of all time, had to end his career in front of nobody. I mean, think about that. Think about that. It's a tragedy. It's criminal. The Undertaker, out of all the stars that lasted not nearly half as long as he did, were able to at least finish their career in front of the crowd at WrestleMania. Ric Flair, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, just to name a few, were able to get that WrestleMania moment and end their careers that way. Even Kurt Angle, albeit against King Corbin at the time. Not the match we wanted, but one that is going to unfortunately be the one that is Kurt's last in WWE, I believe. So the fact that Undertaker, who lasted longer than all of them, did not get that opportunity, of course, is not his fault. It's not anybody's fault, but there is that. But outside of that, they did what they could. And I think they did, as I mentioned at the beginning, as I look back, maybe my memory is foggy on this, or maybe it's just that I am becoming a little bit more accepting of the fact that it was Undertaker's final match, and therefore I've got a kind of, I guess, beer goggles on when it comes to that. And so That match, when I look back at it, and I did the other day, and I said to myself, all right, let's watch this from start to finish without the preconceived notion that it's going to be terrible. And it's not. There are some hokey things. There's music. There's cameras where there shouldn't be. There are special effects that don't make sense. Some of the reactions. I mean, it is a little bit hokey, but is it appropriate for Undertaker's character? If he were going to finish his last match in a movie? Yeah, I guess so. And against a world-class talent like AJ Styles, you can't really ask for a better guy to work with to make you look good and not have to really do a whole lot of work, and that's AJ Styles. Yes, it's a shame they didn't get to do it in front of 75,000 people in a stadium. I think that would have been fun to watch, but we didn't get that with fate choosing the path here of having to do it in I don't know, what was it, like an old farm or something like that, wherever the heck they filmed it. And yeah, it's difficult to understand, or difficult to accept that again, he didn't get that moment in front of fans. Now, do I think the Undertaker will return eventually and have like not a match, but have like a choke slam moment or something? Yeah, why not? I think so. I think that'd be fun. Just like a choke slam and a tombstone, kind of do what Undertaker or what Stone Cold does, or what The Rock does when he comes back at this time, and just kind of lay somebody out, right, and do your greatest hits and leave. So I think that's probably in Undertaker's future at some point in the next couple of years, which will be cool. I mean, he doesn't have to be in crazy shape to deliver a tombstone and a choke slam, But again, this match with AJ Styles, it is a fun match. The thing is, it had been, and up to that point in wrestling, it had been, and it was such a stark difference in how wrestling was presented up until that point. There had been no cinematic anything, none, and it was so different to me. And to me, it was just the embodiment of what I think is wrong with the way WWE perceives what they are. They look at themselves as they look at themselves as entertainment, and yes, entertainment's in their name, but you know what else is in their name? Wrestling, right? So I think at times they lose that, and they are trying to redefine their identity as during the time anyway. I thought they were kind of trying to modify their identity to be more of a movie studio. And yes, they did a nice job. If you're looking at it from a production standpoint, it was very good. It still isn't my flavor. If I'm going to choose between 75,000 screaming fans and that, I mean, it's no contest. But it still was a high point. And it's only a high point looking back. In the moment, I will stand by what I said. It wasn't my favorite. But looking back on it with the understanding that it was Undertaker's final match, I think it was well done. It was as good as it could have been. And it's better than having it in the eerily quiet performance center in front of nobody. So those are a couple of highs. We also, of course, got Randy Orton, another high with a guy I think that was completely reinvented once he came back, or once Edge came back, and he was able to work with Edge, and then Edge gets injured, and then Roman, he starts going on this tear of kicking off people's skulls, starts kicking people in the skull, starts just like a new, it's like a totally new person. I think we got to see the Randy Orton that I think we knew was all there all along, and we just never got to see that guy come out until it was brought out by Edge. And so we can credit Edge with that, I think. Now, Edge at least got the opportunity at the tail end of normalcy to be in front of fans for a month or two, and have that pop of a lifetime at Rumble 2020. But Randy Orton, I think, did an excellent job doing what he did, punting people, building heat. Same with I got to give creative credit. only to only to have all of that blown off by Keith Lee's debut. Randy Orton was on a hot streak, couldn't be touched, one of the best heels in years, and then he loses a match to Keith Lee for what? Where's Keith Lee, by the way? Wait. He's nowhere to be seen. So I wasn't a fan of that. I'm still not a fan of that. But at least the good from the pandemic, we did see a revived Randy Orton. Now, is it because of the pandemic, or did it happen to just be going on during the pandemic? I don't think the pandemic contributed to Randy Orton and his success. It just is one of the good things during the pandemic era. So we have to differentiate it. It's not a reason for Randy being so good. It just happened to be going on during that time. So Randy Orton, brilliant. Another good thing. Certainly. And probably the biggest thing to come out of this whole pandemic era, ThunderDome era, is Roman Reigns turning heel, returning at SummerSlam, and the slogan being, "You'll never see it coming." That was absolutely, I think, the biggest, most impactful, and ultimately will be the most long-lasting decision during the pandemic era. And unlike Randy Orton's heel turn, I think Roman Reigns and his heel turn was because of the pandemic. I think Roman Reigns' heel turn actually propagated was propagated by the pandemic. And here's why. The WWE, once Roman left in March, and it was revealed that we're going to have Braun Strowman versus Goldberg at WrestleMania, and everyone's like, what? Then we, of course, Roman had 5 months before he came back. Creative had 5 months. Roman had 5 months, and Paul Heyman had 5 months to rack their brains and think about the possibilities. Think about the different scenarios of what they could do with Roman Reigns when he comes back. I'm sure they discussed, hey, let's bring him back. He's going to continue to be the big dog. Or they said to themselves, hey, it's been a mild success, putting it nicely, with him as a babyface. It has been, 5-6 years since we've been trying this Roman Reigns babyface experiment. There is no better time than right now, with no fans to distract, being able to work in a vacuum of not having to worry about fans interjecting and heckling. Why not? Right? We've got 5 months. Let's bring him back. Bring him back nasty. Bring him back with Paul Heyman. And be the guy that all of the fans thought he could be. And boy, guys, you and I were right. Vince was wrong on how good Roman Reigns could be as a heel. And I actually think that the collective we, you and I, the fans, didn't realize just how good he could be as a heel. I mean, we knew he would be money. We knew he'd be good. I don't think you or I envisioned this, where it's carrying not just SmackDown, he's carrying the WWE with this storyline. And you saw it this past week with Jimmy Uso basically getting no on-air reprimand and still continuing to be there. And they're just not going to address it on air anyway. I'm sure behind closed doors they have. But to really send the message that that's how important this storyline is. And it's not just about punishing Jimmy, because I think they realized if they have to pull Jimmy out of this story, then they're also going to hurt Roman. He's going to be collateral damage, and we can't do that. So that, I think, is the message. While they will never say that, you can bet your ass that is a massive reason Jimmy Uso didn't get fired and Jimmy Uso didn't get at least suspended, because they want to keep the momentum going. Fans are just about to come back, and they realized it's not just about punishing Jimmy. They'll be punishing Roman by default, and the progression of this story and all the progress they've made by doing that to Jimmy. So I think that's the real reason. I really do. They will never say that publicly, of course, but back to Roman and the brilliance during the pandemic era. He certainly was probably the biggest success story coming out of the pandemic. Absolutely. With everything he's done, very few missteps. Think about this, guys. It's nearly been a year. It's been 11 months, almost. There was the August 28th edition of SmackDown when we saw Paul Heyman sitting in the room with Roman. So it's nearly been 11 months since that moment. And I remember going on vacation that day saying, you got to be kidding me. And I promised my wife I wasn't going to be doing any shows, any podcasts, and just spend time with the family. And for the most part, I did, but I was able to, at night, sneak in my car. I brought my mobile microphone, and I just plugged it into my iPhone. And you guys, if you remember back then, I was giving my thoughts and opinions back then. But nonetheless, another success story of the pandemic. So now there are other minor successes, right? Like we have Otis that happened during the pandemic. More recently, of course, we'll see how that all pans out. AJ Styles and almost became tag team champions. How you view that, of course, is up for debate. Charlotte returning during the pandemic was, I think, just a very impactful return. Bayley and Sasha Banks during the pandemic era were just carrying the show for many, many months, and they had awesome chemistry. The showdown between Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks at WrestleMania blew the house down, probably the match of the entire pay-per-view. Absolutely amazing. And I hope we get a rematch with those two. Maybe at SummerSlam, we'll see. So there was some really good stuff, guys. Edge with his promos, the Firefly Funhouse is not my favorite. Certainly not my favorite. You guys know that. So that's a lot of the good. I think there's a lot of good there. And I wanted to get to the good before we turn the tables and we talk about, well, let's talk about the absolute worst thing of the pandemic era. And it depends on how you want to look at this. Because if you're looking at what was the worst match in the pandemic era, that's extremely subjective. Everything I say is subjective because everything I'm saying right now is my opinion. But if I was going to talk about the match that was the worst, for me, now I know you could look at Goldberg, any of the matches with Goldberg, right? Like, just pick a match with Goldberg and it's going to be bad, right? Especially by today's standards and his limitations and the just complete resentment that fans have for him at this point in his career. So that's bad. There were some bad matches mixed in there too. But I think that the most, not in terms of a bad match physically, but a bad match for the business, not just for that pay-per-view, for the entire industry, was Money in the Bank. And that was the same one where Becky Lynch, or the Monday Night Raw after, handed Asuka the championship that she didn't know she won. And we had the Money in the Bank match. A match that I'm going to give you guys a little audio from. I really, really don't want to watch this. Like, I think it is the most egregious example of an exposure of the business that you will ever see, ever. It's bad. And it was an attempt at comedy. It was an attempt at also cinematics. It was an attempt at trying to build characters, but also overacting, and the cameras are in places they shouldn't be, as always, and just completely implausible segments where Rey Mysterio's thrown off a roof and he's somehow okay, and people have to climb literally the corporate ladder, all the puns and all that kind of stuff. This was wrestling at its absolute worst. It's as if Vince McMahon was able to navigate my brain and find the part of my brain that contains the worst things about wrestling and said, we're going to take all this and we're going to make it a match. And by God, he did. So to my chagrin, guys, I'm going through this pain. I'm doing this self-infliction of pain for you. Okay. I want you to know this is how much you guys mean to me. Then I'm going to watch some of this match back with you live for the first time since I saw it in 2020. I have not watched anything from this match since that time because I thought it was a total embarrassment for the company and the business. It was one of those moments that made me embarrassed to be a wrestling fan. If my friends were watching this with me, my face would turn red. I would feel secondhand embarrassment. I would just change the channel. I would say, you know what, let's watch something else. I would actually say, F it. It was that bad to me. So anyway, let's listen to, again, guys, this is all for you. Okay. So let's listen to some of that match while I sit here and cringe.
But in order to get there, we have to start on the ground floor. We're going to start in the lobby of the WWE World Headquarters, where for the first time ever, both the men's and women's Money in the Bank ladder matches will go on simultaneously. And we start things off from Friday Night SmackDown in her very first Money in the Bank ladder match.
So we're getting introductions here. I'll skip through that. I mean, that's probably the least cringeworthy. Although, what's weird is you have everybody. I mean, I could sit here for a month and nitpick things. You have the women standing there, just coming out from, I guess, a hallway and standing in like a line, like single file line. And it's bad. It's really bad. So I mean, that's not even the first part of this. So here's the part where I knew we're in big trouble. So let's listen to Asuka's entrance here. Asuka's on the they notice. Okay, I'll pause it just for a second. Asuka's on the top of the second floor, I guess, hanging off the railing, and all the women are standing up there looking at her, staring as if they don't know what the hell is about to happen next. Meanwhile, you have the men in the weight room: Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio, King Corbin, Aleister Black, Otis, all in the weight room, like in a big circle. You know, in a big circle, about as if they're about to hold hands. I mean, this guys, this is already making my soul hurt. So let's continue. This is all for you. All right, all the women are down because nobody saw that coming, and they all had to group together. Everybody's down. Asuka wasting time, dancing around, taking the elevator. She's taking the elevator. Here she goes. People are trying to get in. And here's a question. Why is Asuka not going to the top floor? Is there a reason? Or is it like Home Alone where they have to go through each level of the house and they can't just, go after the prize, right? Instead of just going through the fun house, they have to go through every level. I don't understand this. All right, so the men are fighting it out in the weight room. Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio. And it's, they're being physical, but music. Here comes music. Oh, God. Otis and AJ Styles fighting. And then we're back to AJ Styles being caught under a weight. He's clearly not caught under the weight, by the way. He's not even close to being caught under the weight. Daniel Bryan somehow ran into a camera that was around the corner that he was going around. All right, I guess that's the least of my worries. Then we get, oh my goodness, we're not even to the worst part of this. They're fighting through the hallways, which is what you expect. The women are fighting with one another. Asuka's still in the elevator. Why Asuka is not just going to the damn top floor is really something that is beyond me. Again, cameras where they shouldn't be.
Tell me where that briefcase is. Tell that. God, no. I'm sorry.
Oh God. They're in a boardroom. Again, in a boardroom with a camera that happened to be there. Is there a camera placed in every room? I mean, and then, oh God, we have Mandy Rose. Take the Money in the Bank contract. But it's in a boardroom. It's just a prop in the boardroom.
Hey, Dana. What are you doing? Newsflash. This is the Money in the Bank conference room. You guys are destroying the building. The real Money in the Bank briefcase is on the roof.
Clearly, Stephanie wasn't even actually there, by the way. She was green screened in. And then we get to probably the most egregious part of this entire match. I mean, this is the epitome. If you ever want to know what the single moment in the single match that I feel is the worst part of wrestling that has ever been created by humankind, that's the food part, right? I mean, we have Paul Heyman, which I have no problem with this. Paul Heyman sitting there at a massive buffet about to bite into a sandwich, and the men and the women at the same exact time both meet perfectly in the middle of this table, chasing their own respective briefcases. Of course, led by Otis, and here we go. I know it's hard to see what's going on, but they're yelling at each other as if they're in some kind of competition. Why, by the way, the men and the women are yelling at one another? Why? They have their own briefcase to go after. So what are we yelling for? What are we yelling for? And good Lord, here comes Otis. So they're going into a food fight now. Let me ask you a question. And Daniel Bryan's a part of this too. Shayna Baszler's choking out Rey Mysterio because again the women can hit the men, but the men can't retaliate because they just can't apparently. The food fight's going on. Let me ask you this: if you had an opportunity to get a shot at the championship, and we're supposed to believe that you are there solely for the purpose of trying to win the championship, at least that should be the goal. And your first thought is, well, we can get to that later. I have a guaranteed opportunity. It's on the roof, but you know what? Making sure that I throw a cherry pie at the women is more important than that. I got to make sure that we have a fun little food fight first. On so many levels, this is awful. It's childish. It's unprofessional. It's not funny. It's not entertaining. It checks no boxes of being good at all. And it also devalues the Money in the Bank briefcase itself. It devalues by proxy the championship that Money in the Bank briefcase opportunity represents. It devalues the characters. The women are able to hit the men. The men can't hit the women because it's PG. And it's also just flat out embarrassing that these professionals are in there more concerned about throwing food at each other than getting an opportunity at the briefcase. It's bad. It's just bad. So Otis then goes to the cafeteria and good Lord. All right, so John Laurinaitis comes in and finds Otis about to eat a pie. I can't even watch the rest of this, guys. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't watch the rest of this. It is just, it's too much for my soul to bear. We ultimately know what happens. Otis wins by luck. Asuka wins her briefcase. Rey Mysterio gets thrown off the building to really nobody caring, and he's okay. It's everything wrong with production, believability. It's not entertaining. It's not funny. It discredits the championship, discredits the Money in the Bank briefcase, discredits the characters, discredits the company and the business as a whole. I mean, need I go on? Need I go on? I think I've dissected this and destroyed it enough. But the whole pay-per-view itself wasn't bad. I mean, we got Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre, if you forgot about that. And so that was one of the most horrible moments. I mean, just bad. We also got some of the just garbage with anything you can do, I can do better, with the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits that went on for many weeks. And I think more than that, a few months. And what made it even worse is that the Street Profits were the Raw Tag Team Champions. And that is just a complete bastardization of the championships. Devalues them. It's bad. They were doing basketball and track and field, and none of it was entertaining. The only thing, again, if I was in their shoes and I didn't have any opponents for them, I mean, I see the logic that, hey, if we're going to do something screwy and wacky and zany, then no better time than now to do it with no audience and no opponents, apparently. So I wouldn't agree with it. There's a bunch of other stuff you could do other than have them at their local high school gym doing sprints and shot put and javelin or whatever garbage they were having them do. So that was another bad thing with the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. And then eventually they became the Viking Profits or something like that. They combined their names and whatever. But that was another really, really bad whole segment on a weekly basis. And speaking of things that happen on a weekly basis, but also happen at the same time, I think they were birthed at the same time, was the lovely group called Retribution and Raw Underground. I look at them as kind of one and the same because they seem to have debuted right at the same time. And let's talk about Raw Underground first. It was a interesting concept. I think at first we're like, we don't know where this is going. We don't know like what the end game is. It held our attention for a brief moment, and then it didn't, because people realized, well, wait a minute. So what you're telling me is that what they're doing here is like pro wrestling style UFC, and what they're doing in the ring is just showmanship. I mean, it was weird. I mean, it did get some faces on the screen that wouldn't have otherwise got it, like Dabba-Kato, now known as Commander Aziz, So it was, I guess, interesting, but it faded quickly. And it was just, you can't have two completely different styles of wrestling on one show. And also, I believe Amos was the doorman, the bouncer to get into that quote club, right? So, and Shane McMahon was hosting it. It was not good. It wasn't good for anybody, I don't think. And I don't know what it set out to achieve. I really don't, other than just, it's something new. Let's boost the ratings. Now, Retribution was, I mean, I sat here on my podcast for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And I said, can we just dissolve this? And at first I said, everyone's excited. They're doing chainsaws. Whoa, what are they doing? It felt very much like Nexus, except with chainsaws. And they attacked fans and all that kind of thing. Well, I say fans loosely. And it was like, okay, well, let's see where this goes. And boy, did they not even know where they were going. They brought in a group of which their mission was to destroy the WWE because of its gluttony, because of its sins, and that they've been pushed aside. They were cast outs. They're on a weekly basis destroying property of WWE, destroying the ring, or destroying backstage, or destroying the power grid into the building, or attacking the announcers. And what does WWE do in response? Well, what do? they give these individuals contracts. So this is the worst decision on two levels. One, you're sending the message that all you have to do, because they're so big on sending messages and statements, is just destroy personal property, threaten the company, attack its announcers and wrestlers, and you get rewarded with a lucrative contract. On top of that, the Retribution Group accepts the very thing that they were fighting against: money and gluttony. And those in the industry, those in WWE who are employed by WWE, are there for their own personal gain, and then this company needs to be destroyed. Like, it's just the worst possible narrative that you could have created. You didn't give them personal identities. The group of Retribution was very fluid in terms of its numbers. It would kind of look like it's unlimited. It was a group of like 20, and then it was down to 5 or 10, and they narrow it, and then they didn't, and then there was a leader, and then there wasn't. And you have names like Flapjack or Slapjack and T-Bar. I mean, you can't be serious. It's one of those ideas that was brought up in a boardroom or in a production meeting or on Zoom, and Vince envisioned something and he loved it. But then when someone said to him, "Hey, Vince, well, so where the hell is this going? Where's the end game?" And you can imagine this. Vince is sitting there going, "Listen, pal, we'll figure it out as we go. We just need some ratings right now. We need some interest back in our product." Well, yeah, it may pop a rating for a week, but when the audience realizes that this storyline's garbage and that you have no direction, you're going to lose them. So it's a very, very short-sighted gain that ultimately would be a net loss, because you'll also probably lose some of the casual viewers who see this, not just the ones that tune in to see it that were kind of new or being brought back, but also the existing ones that look at this and go, "This is garbage," right? So it was bad. Retribution and Raw Underground, really bad. Really, really bad. So I don't think anybody's going to shed a tear realizing that those two entities will never return, God willing, right? So, and here's the thing, guys. I know that there is a ton of other things that I didn't cover here. Tons of other little details, other matches, other moments, Asuka getting her teeth kicked out, things like that. Certainly, there's a lot that happened in the last 18 months. But I think I can sit here and say, even with all the bad that I just went through, I did go through a lot of good at the beginning. And there was a lot of good. And I think the Roman Reigns heel turn, would that have happened had it not been for the pandemic? One of the best storylines ever, or not ever, but coming out of the WWE in the last 10 years. Would this have happened had it not been for the pandemic? I have my doubts. So we have that to thank, and that is so huge that you could look at this and go, you know what, that's kind of a win. And now we are just a hair away from coming back to live fans on a weekly basis. We are done with the pandemic. I know the Delta variant and all that kind of stuff. People are trying to stir up fear. Is out there, but I don't believe we'll ever go back into full lockdown mode. We can't. With all the damage that was done with the pandemic, it would just be, I mean, I don't know, I'm not getting into the pandemic, but let's talk wrestling here. I wanted to just say that I'm happy and I'm grateful for WWE being one of the few entities that actually continued their weekly programming, even in front of nobody. Yes, we had others kind of stroll on and do that too, and try to do things on YouTube and Zoom and all that stuff. I think we are all zoomed out, certainly. And so, there is that. WWE could have packed it up, and they certainly told a lot of people to do that during the pandemic. That also could be a really negative one if I wanted to get into that, and I won't. But just the firings that took place during that 18 months, it was a lot of people that lost their jobs. A lot. But I'm trying to keep it to storylines, so I'm going to keep it to storylines. But if you're looking at real life human impact, then yes, certainly people losing their jobs, hundreds of people from WWE losing their jobs. during the pandemic era. That is that's bad. No doubt. More than that matters more than any complaint about a storyline or a silly pay-per-view, whatever. That ultimately is probably the worst thing about it. If you really want to dig into the nuts and bolts and get down to a human level, yeah, the amount of people they let go during the pandemic era, and it's not just talent, right? It's the staff behind the scenes, it's the ring crew, it's the road agents, it's even referees. Like nobody was safe. So there is that too. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I didn't expect to do it. It came into my mind today, and I'm like, hey, we haven't really wrapped up the pandemic era, and I'm sure we could do subsequent shows on this and really dive into certain topics about what was good and what was bad. But these are just some of the high level things that came to my mind. Certainly not a comprehensive list. I'm sure that I'll get some feedback on this, but I'm interested in what you think about what the good and bad is in the pandemic era. There was a lot of bad. I just outlined it, but there was a lot of good that came of it too. So I'm interested. Give me your good and bad for the week. For the pandemic era, for the mailbag this week. You can email me at realwwepodcast@gmail.com, and you can also call us at 518-952-0247 if you want to leave a voicemail and let me know what you thought about the pandemic era. So, guys, thank you so much, and consider joining us on Patreon for an ad-free experience, or heading over to Apple Podcasts and hitting subscribe, and you get all these shows ad-free for $2.99 a month with a 3-day free trial. So, all right, everybody, thanks so much. I'll be back tomorrow night with a Raw review. Until then, I'll talk to you next time.